Hello. You hear me? Hello?
Are you there?
Yep. Do you hear me now?
I hear you. I don't see you.
Okay, here, let me. It should work in here.
There you are.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, what would you like to know? What are you reporting
Well,
about?
first off, how did you have the misfortune of getting to know Joe Brings Plenty?
I've been able to connect with many lineal descendants throughout the Midwest, going into Nebraska and Wyoming. So I probably came across him through an event. I can't recall personally
Okay.
knowing him.
He's a really good guy.
Yeah, I see he's on my Facebook, so I must have met him from somewhere.
Okay. I know him pretty well. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, I should get to know him, it sounds like.
Well, Damon, where are you? You're
Damon.
in Minneapolis?
I'm Damon.
Damon, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I have a
It's
friend named
Damon.
Damon.
It's spelled the same way, but I'm from Minnesota, homegrown. I live on the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community right now with my
That's
wife
right, you
and
told me that
children.
yesterday,
Yeah, so I currently occupy this reservation.
And are you an enrolled citizen?
No, I'm not an enrolled member with the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community. My great grandfather was, and he was one of the original 12 founding members of the Shakopee Mdewakanton community when they gained recognition in 1969.
That's great.
So I'm
Are you
unenrolled.
enrolled anywhere else?
No, I'm definitely not enrolled anywhere else. And to speak on that, we got things in the works, and with the limited information I can give on that status, I'm just amazed that you reached out, and I was really curious about what you said. I slept on it, so I'm prepared. I've been doing this for 8 years, research-wise, genealogy aspect, and researching documents, and I've been a part of many meetings for the recognition of the Mdewakanton. But I wanted you to explain uh, the information and the details you have on the aspect, because it's really an interesting topic. There's really, you can look at it from two ways. Should they not? Should there be three communities that are already recognized as Mdewakanton? Is that enough? So if you could elaborate on that.
Oh, I don't. That's not really a position for me on internally with your relatives. How many bands should be recognized? That's your choice and your prerogative. I'm interested in. I'm looking through my email. I'm going to send you just the latest court documents that I came across.
Okay.
And that's the latest filing again from the Department of the Interior, which says that I'll send you both of these.
Okay.
Or send you the court filing just to the email. And so, I mean, the thing that for my story, because I just want to it's probably be a pretty brief story about where this court case sits.
Yes.
And I wanted to speak to somebody who's living this and who's fighting for this, and like I guess, what would this mean? What does this mean to you? Why do you want to see this band recognized?
Well, it starts for many reasons, and it's been a problem with the United States government and the state of Minnesota since we can go back to 1862 with the Dakota Uprising. And then there was many of those participants hung with the 38 plus 2 and then also removed to Nebraska where the Santee Sioux Reservation, which is a currently federally recognized tribe, these lineal descendants that are from Minnesota, this group, because there's a scattered group, so it's important to touch on the history of why it should be something present modern day. So with the removal of all these other Indians, and they also fled the state, but then you had a group of 200 people, and I descend through one of those people that saved hundreds to thousands white settlers, the development and growth of Minnesota. My grandmother saved people from New Ulm all the way to St. Paul, saying hide for refuge, go to St. Paul, go near Fort Snelling for protection. The Dakota Warriors are planning an uprising. So that was acknowledged in 1863, right after the Dakota Uprising War, with an act of Congress, where they defined this group of people as loyal Mdewakanton. And with that being said, that every single loyal Mdewakanton who did not participate in the Uprising War and who stayed in Minnesota should be and shall be given 80 acres to. And this was practiced all through the late 1800s, early 1900s, middle of the century, of the 19th century, where people who were loyal Mdewakanton descent, prior to the federal recognition of the three communities in Santee, Nebraska, were getting anywhere from 80 acres to 30 acres to 5 acres of land to homestead to provide for their family. This was a way where the government was trying to transition the traditional way of the Mdewakanton to the westernized farming techniques. And my family has participated in that farming from 1875, when Abraham Lincoln issued a land patent to my great-grandmother. And that land is still in the family to this day, over 100 years of maintaining and farming land and passing down land and transfers of titles to the heirs and court litigations for that matter even. And so then, they set it up where there were 1,100 acres that you could say 5 to 10 to 20, let's say, because a lot of people abandoned the reservation too. So this is the Minnesota Mdewakanton. A lot of our relatives abandoned the reservation, which made an assignment for a new head of the family and their family to move in. So that's what the foundation of the three federally recognized communities this present day are: the 1886 Minnesota Loyal Mdewakanton lands, which then was held in trust for these three communities. Well, then there's this one group, and this is where I work closely with the lineal descendants and the head plaintiffs of Wolfchild, and I personally worked with Eric Cardell, and we exchanged documents and such. But there was something that Judge Leto said, was that there was money that was to be awarded to this unrecognized group, because during Wolfchild, you got to understand, there was no process for federal recognition. This was just, the courts for all, you can practically say is that they considered the Minnesota Mdewakanton a group rather than a tribe. And if that was decided in the federal courts, and then there was some judgment summary that everybody, I believe, who was in Wolfchild got $20 from it. It was $700,000 judgment award that the Department of Interior mistakenly gave the three IRA communities funds that were supposed to be driven for the Minnesota Mdewakanton. So Now, why is it important for the Minnesota Mdewakanton to be recognized? Well, there were acts of Congress, and if we have these people in these federal agencies having an oath and to the Constitution, there's acts of Congress that where there are homeless Mdewakanton to this day, and they have the skill sets to be a great thriving community: craftsmen, blacksmiths, mechanics, farmers, beadwork, leather workers, medicine men and women, storytellers, medical, legal. There's so many potential thriving people within the Minnesota Mdewakanton community. It would be a shame for them not to be recognized as a community and to be able to get the funding and the land to be able to preserve themselves.
What kind of funding and land do you think the recognition would lead to?
You know, and this is the land and the funding, and this is also for the enrolled members as well, because their constitution, their enrollment criteria says that they have to be a lineal descendant of the 1886 Mdewakanton, the friendly, loyal Mdewakanton Sioux. So the same standards that those communities are held to, this group should be held to as well. So when I say land, there are certain parks, burial grounds, secret areas that should be protected, and only our ancestors or other people from the museum out in St. Paul, the Historic Society, knows about this. And then there's plenty of federal and state land where if you were to give the enrolled member or the unenrolled member a chance to homestead, to make a self-sufficient lifestyle, whether if that is solar energy, animal, livestock, growing your own food, this is important. And there's plenty of land, and this is the issue that we were tapping on for a long time. And this was even a problem for the Department of Interior in the early 19th century, was that there's these people that we were supposed to appropriate funds through Congress for them to have the chance to earn a title to be a tax-paying U.S. citizen. These lands should be held in trust for 25 years, and then after that, those lands would go back into fee. So that's where's the land? Well, we can pull up a map in Minnesota, any state unoccupied, any federal owned land that's unoccupied, any cemetery, burial ground, any secret area. There are plenty of areas, and that's where I work with real estate developers and agents as well, is for designing a community within the means where the surrounding communities would be proud of it, and the other 3 federally recognized communities.
And again, if you're not recognized, you'll have more difficulty making progress to get reestablish yourselves on that land.
Well, this is what happened. It was in about the 1980s where there was a judgment summary from the 1925 federal court decision deciding how are we, because there's all this treaty money where the government does not want to give it to the 4 bands that signed the treaties in Minnesota. So it goes to the loyal Mdewakanton. So for a long time, they were trying to figure out, until to this day, trying to figure out who the loyal Mdewakanton are and trying to figure out the genealogy aspect of it. But when it, in the 80s, they had the judgment summary again saying that, well, here's a list that was prepared of the unenrolled members. They shall be specially enrolled into one of the 3 communities, Lower Sioux, Prairie Island, or Shakopee, to be able to obtain the rest of their portion of this judgment fund. There was another distributed check through the Department of the Interior for about $2,200 in the 80s. But then to get the rest of the money, which was the same money that funds these casinos, what funded all this infrastructure and development in these 3 communities, pretty much said these groups get to manage the money that are owed to the Mdewakanton, while you got an interest payment who's not enrolled, And you have to try to get enrolled into these communities to be able to get land, to be recognized as American Indian. And it goes down to the identity aspect and the twisted, even going through the Department of Interior, getting a certificate of Indian blood. If my grandfather wasn't enrolled with the federally recognized tribe, the United States government would not even count my Indian blood. You know, and it says that on the document that this document is not evidence of being enrolled, but it shows that you're a descendant of the Shakopee, Mdewakanton, Sioux community. So, which wrapped my head around, well, this is just a community. This is not a tribe. This is not a historic people. So how many other people that are Mdewakanton aren't enrolled, or parents or grandparents were not enrolled, but cannot get the benefits as people who are Mdewakanton today? It's just a complete divide, and we can look at the Department of Interior for the recognition of all of this, because it's their job and their duty to be able to answer these questions and come up with the reason for the recognition of the Mdewakanton.
And do you know the Torgersons?
The Tortisons?
Torgersons.
No, I'm not.
Two Torgersons who filed the case.
Okay, because see, there's
it's in court
right now. Okay, see, there's about 6 groups that I can count of all the same unenrolled people trying to achieve the same goal, and that's to be federally acknowledged. So I worked with 4 of these groups, and they have meetings, and due to COVID, there hasn't been too many meeting activities. But it's just, you have all these groups, and I think it's just when all these groups and these people who just filed see that it's going to be hard to be recognized as a federally recognized community when the whole community doesn't know about it. You know, who is responsible for the government to government relationship? So that's another thing that we've been trying to work on, is getting the groups come together. So I don't even know who their attorney is, and the one that worked with the Minnesota Mdewakanton the best and the closest was Eric Cardell. So all the luck to this guy.
Cardell, he filed this suit.
Okay, that's good. So then, yeah, I can give him a call. See, I would have to go through my files again and see their names. But yeah, it's a discrimination thing, definitely, and that's the principle of it, is that there's people, and we're not asking for much. We're just asking for the chance to start just like any other Indian community, where we can start a self-sufficient lifestyle and preserve our traditional ways and our values. And to be able to do that, you have to be recognized. So, and without it, there are ways where, you know, for instance, you can go to Alaska and get a permit from the DNR and have all permission to hunt and build a cabin and have a self-sufficient lifestyle. That's what we're asking for, something similar, where we just need a permit, or if that's recognition or something through the Bureau of Land Management, where we can have a source of land to start. We have the know-how, we have the construction workers, we have the craftsmen. We can build a community. I personally sat down with these people. They're amazing people. We just need the land, and we don't need nothing more than we need to start with that. So if this lawsuit turns into anything that Wolfchild didn't, is that we could come to a realization as whether if these acts of Congress, where it says these lineal descendants, because these acts of Congress didn't say you had to be a federally recognized Indian community, that wasn't even in existence. If we can get certain land held by the federal government to use, I think that would do good for the community members, the federally recognized communities, and the unenrolled people.
That's wonderful. I really like what you just said, that you're not asking for much. You just want a chance to start to rebuild your community and um, uh, secure our traditions.
Yes.
Can you? I've reached out to. How did you pronounce your attorney's name?
Eric Cardell.
Cardell.
Yeah.
I've reached out to him a number of times. I haven't heard back from him. If he'll return your phone calls, if you could tell him if you could give me a ring, that'd be great. Any way I can get hold of him, I think would be very helpful.
Okay, yeah, definitely. We have so many other just Mdewakanton topics, just even greater and beyond the Minnesota Mdewakanton that we're trying to tackle to really get a good community for the 3 recognized communities, and then also a relief plan for the unrecognized people. So thank you for having me today. So
yeah, no, thank you. Do you think is there any overlap between the folks that might be citizens in one of the 3 recognized bands who would also be part of your effort that are in descendants of the unrecognized band?
See, this is a big problem, and this is what I was trying to tell people, and because personally, I live out here, and so I get to speak to both sides, and with any confidential information I do have to share on the key reasons. But when you have these people starting lawsuits saying that these 3 communities owe them, because there's the confusion, because this is going to be the real hurdle, this is going to be the real tackle for anybody to complete this mission, is that if the Minnesota Mdewakanton are federally recognized, then what is the government going to do about the 3 communities? Because if the Minnesota Mdewakanton, see, if I had a bulletin board, you have like 3 circles of the 3 community, and you have the Mdewakanton. If the Mdewakanton is federally recognized, then the 3 communities, whose land, this is a trust dispute, whose lands are these? So that was a huge argument saying that, the Wolfchild plaintiffs, well, we should be getting money from Mystic, Treasure Island, and Lower Sioux. We should run all of it. It should be 1 tribe. It shouldn't be 3 communities. And that's a big obstacle for the unenrolled people. And it's going to be something where the government's going to have to make an understanding with the Minnesota Mdewakanton, either to a new start, a new fresh start, a new land that's set aside. There's 12 square miles. Can we relocate that somewhere else? Because we already have businesses, homes, communities develop it. Yeah. It's an unrealistic task, and I don't get in arguments over it. I just say, well, let's be real, because we have billions of dollars of infrastructure and businesses and homes. How are we gonna just strong arm all these people that are already established, has a great relationship with the government? Shakopee Mdewakanton does amazing things for the community around us, for the Scott County, for the state, for the donating to tribes, starting up economic enterprises for other tribes, donating to schools, building stadiums. I mean, there's so much good that these communities do for now an unenrolled group that doesn't have nothing to do with the start of this. See, again, like the Shakopee community, that was started with 12 people. So you got 12 poor, impoverished people, similar to third world country living on the reservation near your Twin Cities. And now you have thousands of people 20, 30, 40, 50 years later saying, you owe me a chunk. Well, you weren't here. And that's going to be an issue for unenrolled people, because it's all based on occupying the reservation. That's how you get federally recognized. If you're not occupying a reservation and you're asking, can I be federally recognized? Well, what are your criteria? There's certain criteria. You have to have trust land. You've had to occupy it. And there's a long, through the federal, I've read every single page of it. I've highlighted it with multiple people, certain sections. A big one is that you have to prove that you were continuously occupying a reservation. You see, that's something I can say my family has done for over 100 years. My wife's family can say that she's occupied a reservation before the recognition. So that's something that occupying a reservation before the recognition. So the reservation I mean, you would have a better chance of going to an original reservation that's unoccupied right now or an abandoned property and saying, hey, well, through an act of Congress says I can be here if I occupy this place. As a squatter's right, so to speak. You know, it's going to take a big movement like that. It's going to take a real community of people moving to an area and really seeing if their rights are protected. And through liberty and justice for all, you know, we should be able to have the setup that these three communities had, which is a land base, and that's a piece of land that the federal government holds title to, but holds in trust for the tribe. So we don't even necessarily own it. This is no loss for the government. Any improvement we do on the reservation is good for not only our Indian country, but for America and for the whole United States and the state of Minnesota. The state of Minnesota loves the Mdewakanton. I mean, we're building bank stadiums, we're TCF bank stadiums, roads, water improvements. It's a beautiful thing, but there's this group that's left hanging, and they are not treated like Mdewakanton like they are. They're treated like any other U.S. citizen that should be able to have a community of their own. So the obstacle is making sure the people who aren't enrolled feel like they should be enrolled, or they should have any cut of anything from the old 1886 reservation. If they can overcome that, I think that there could be a realistic deal made there. So
okay, so oversimplified. Tell me if I'm understanding what you're saying. It's a complicated situation.
yes,
Because first you have the conversation with the U.S. federal government to be recognized as a federally recognized tribe.
right,
Second, you possibly then have a conversation with three other recognized tribes
right,
that potentially would have affiliation with the same reservation land that has always shrinking, right?
right,
But that has shrunk from all of the different treaties and policies of the federal government. So
right,
you have two conversations that you're having: one within Indian country and one with the federal government.
right, right. And the money doesn't.
It's oversimplified, but is that accurate?
And simplified, that is correct. And simplified in the meanings of it was Lower Sioux. It all starts from Lower Sioux that gave land to a few people, not give, a certificate, gave them a certificate, moved to Prairie Island and Shakopee. So then there was a group of people in Prairie Island that said, hey, we should be our own community. Why do we have to have why do we have to have Lower Sioux issue us certificates? Pretty much, why do we have to have Lower Sioux's approval on anything we do? They got federally recognized in 1936. Then the same thing happened in 1969. You have this reservation land families my family was on, and my wife's and a few others, that we were not a federally recognized tribe. We were known as the Prior Lake Indian community. And that was before Shakopee, Mdewakanton, Sioux community. And then 1969, then a new community came. So it's going to, it took a group of people because we were here, no funding, no housing, no tribal assistance. No, there was nothing like that. If you didn't know how to build a cabin or have a trailer or grow food, you were pretty much dead on the reservation. And then, and so that's what's going to happen is that we're going to have to understand it, that these places are established. Because these same people are filing lawsuits for the Minnesota Mdewakanton are trying to get enrolled with Shakopee, Prairie Island, and Lower Sioux. So it just comes down to everybody needs a home. Everybody wants to go home at the end of the day, and a lot of Mdewakanton don't have that. So.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I just sent you the latest court filing that I've have, which I think is up to date in the federal appeals court. The district court ruled against you guys,
Right. I wouldn't be surprised.
and so now it's in the appeals court, and thank you for visiting with me.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We'll have to keep in touch, and I'll definitely
Yeah.
keep in tuned with
Well, I'll
everything.
send you a link to what if and when I write something and it gets published. I'll send you that link. And if you could send a note to the attorney, it'd be great
I should.
I don't want to. Sometimes attorneys don't like to talk to writers because they want to. They don't want to say anything that jeopardizes their litigation.
Right.
I'm not interested in that.
Definitely.
What I want to hear from him is, we're gonna keep pursuing this. We're gonna keep fighting for recognition. That's really pretty much what I want to.
Yeah. And I know that justice will be served, and I know that Eric knows what he's doing, and into the future, we have to see, we have to act as a community to be recognized as a community. So that's first and foremost. So thanks for having me. That'd be great for the link or anything, any help. We'll be talking in the future.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, man.